Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Garmer, here with me, as per usual, Mr. Mark Morrison.
Howdy.
And if you're on the video version, as you can see, we're going to be talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Mark's played a little bit of it, so this will definitely be some impressions. I've pre-ordered the game, but I got the standard edition, and I wouldn't have had time to play it anyway until probably late Tuesday. Thankfully, the hurricane that's probably people know about now, Milton, is not going to hit us very hard in the Miami area, but it is going to hit another one of our comrades in the relative broadcasting pretty bad. He lives in Tampa, where it's going to hit directly. So I've been watching a lot of it and had to go get ready just in case, because at first it looked like it was going to, but now it's not, thankfully. But because talking about things that looks like we used to know what they're going to be about, and then apparently things are changing. Talking about Halo, as last night was the Halo World Championships, and they had some big news, so we'll talk about that as well. Metaphor ReFantazio's glowing reviews, we'll talk about those. Some hijinks going on with Nintendo and more emulator drama with that. Power World's getting a mobile version. Alien Isolation 2 is happening to lead into all the spooky season stuff and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so just quickly here to get this out of the way. Housekeeping. Whether this is the first time watching or you've been watching us for a while, we do appreciate you. You can watch us live around this time, between like 4, 5, 5:30 at the latest on Mondays is when we do the show live. You can watch it on YouTube, W2 Network, Twitch, and Facebook, W2 Network as well. I might be bringing back the Twitter, my personal Twitter, pretty soon. Not sure, haven't decided that on yet. And then you can always watch on demand on YouTube. And I've started making clips of the episodes as well. So we have a few of those already up there. I'm working on more from the last few episodes we've had. So thank you to those that have watched the clips as well. They do help. And, of course, showing up on TikTok over there too. So you can just go at Skarmer on TikTok. You can find me on there. So, yeah. Considering the rest of the network, though, anime is kicking off this month. This is the big anime month. Of course, with the Dragon Ball Daima coming on in cahoots with the Sparking Zero game that is also coming out the same day, October 11th. And, of course, other big animes like Dan Dan Dan. That's going to be apparently the next big one that's also coming. So you might want to go make sure you go check out Otaku Cafe, because they talk about all the new anime that happens each season, and I'm sure they will be talking about the fall stuff fairly soon, if not this week, then next week. So go check them out. The Ryujinx Broadcasting people, they are probably going to be doing, if not today, tomorrow, the Joker 2 review. So go make sure you check them out as well. So that being said, make sure you subscribe so you can get all that stuff, and then you can go listen on podcasts also if you just like listening with your ears instead of watching. You can find us wherever podcasts are. So that being said, Mark, I know you haven't played a lot of it, and you have not. So you have not played Silent Hill 2, the original.
Right. I played like the Silent Hill 1 demo, back in the day on demo discs. Didn't like that. Played Silent Hill 3 on PC way back in the day. Didn't like that because it had like really bad gamepad support. And I played Silent Hill 4 on PS2 and didn't like that because it kind of gave me motion sickness.
Okay, fair enough.
So, yep, playing Silent Hill 2.
All right, so you and I are both going to have the same perspective of not really having played the game previously. So our first,
right.
Initiation with this game is going to be the remake.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? And compared to, I don't know if you played any of Bloober Team's other stuff. Compared to that, what do you think? No. Okay.
It seems okay. It looks. I don't think it looks great. I think it looks interesting though. Like you can. I'm on performance mode, I guess, but
Okay.
so some of it looks kind of janky, but I think I actually don't mind it. Like if you swing the camera around, you can see the guys like jacket has some really weird looking artifact for like a second because like the rain.
Right.
So yeah, I got to I hit like the main town, I guess, and I got my first weapon, which was like a board with some nails in it.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
like,
seen that
okay.
one.
It's like how does this not break after like 2 hits? But okay.
Can you already feel the psychological horror coming at you?
No. I mean it does have like elements, like it has some like, spooky sound effects, I guess, but nothing scary at the moment, at least not yet. My problem really is they don't tell you what to do.
Okay.
So I got to the town, and they gave you a map, which is nice, but it's like, okay, there are locations marked on this map, like Gonzalez Diner. So I went there, and it's just like some boarded up diner, and I'm like, what? Why did you make mention of this if you can't get inside, side of it? And then like every road was blocked off, either by like one road was like had like a big gap, like a big ditch in it, like part of the sewer blew up or something. And the other roads have like these like big curtains that like blocking it off. And I'm like, A, you can get through a curtain. Like,
Yeah.
and B, like I spent 10 minutes trying to figure out where the fuck to go. Because I'm like I'm going up to like every house, and it's like every house is abandoned basically. And I'm like, can I go through here? What's the deal? And I finally found like, oh, there's like one path on like the upper left part. This is my tooltip for you, by the way.
Yeah.
There's like a very small alleyway between two houses you can get through to actually progress the story. And I was like,
Okay.
cool, but you could have highlighted this a little better, or like it would have been nice to have some direction. Like I guess it would be nice if there's like, yo, if you want the original, PS2 2001 or 2002 or whenever that game came out, feeling go for it. But it's 2024, y'all. Like people have waypoints, or people have it's a more guided.
Well, I think that's part of it, right? They didn't want to remove that. Like if they give you that from the start, there's gonna be so many people that don't know
Right.
that you can turn the waypoints off. Right.
Right.
So they're immediately, the first thought is gonna be, oh man, they 2024 it, they gamified this. I didn't want that. Like how much complaining we get about the yellow paint in Resident Evil, right?
Sure.
Like
I mean, I'll maybe have it off by default then, and then you can turn it off turn it on in the options,
yeah,
But
I wonder if they could technically add something like more lighting or
well, I'm
whatever.
also playing. I also fired up Dead Space, the remake of Dead Space, like last night because
Yeah.
I was super bored. And that game has like an actual button that says, "Hey, go here," or it literally lights up in
Right.
the environment saying, "Hey, follow this path." And I'm not saying you need something like that direct or that extreme, but
Yeah.
you could do it like with the camera. Like if you press the button, the guy turns to like the next objective, or where you should supposed to be able to go next.
I think part of it is that's supposed to be the thing, is like that's supposed to be part of the angst of it. The making you be a kind of scared is that you don't know where you're going. The fog is there. It's supposed to kind of deter you. You don't know what's
But
coming around every corner, kind of thing.
But by that metric, I mean, I was getting to the point where I was just gonna look up a guide or like look up a video, and it's like, well,
Right.
that breaks immersion even further. So
I agree with you on that. Yeah, because most of them they're gonna have to kind of tell you what's coming up ahead in order for you
right,
to. But I mean, just to get through that one little section and then you can just go back to not using it, I don't think is that necessarily
right.
that big of an immersion breaker. But yeah, from everything I've heard, it has a, what is it, like 88 or 89 on OpenCritic and Metacritic so far. So, or 87, 88, something like that. So,
right.
Doing well as far as the critical reception. I think a lot better than a lot of people thought it was going to do. Which,
I know a lot of people were kind of down on it. And it's like, well, it ain't out yet. I mean,
yeah, there was a lot of talk before it came out about, oh man, it looks bad. They're ruining this. Oh, they're gonna make the combat just like Resident Evil, and it's all this stuff. And they, for the most part, it seems like they retained pretty much everything, and then just made some parts longer that were kind of cut off in the original. So yeah, I'm excited to start playing this either late Tuesday or Wednesday as we're dealing with a bunch of rain here.
I obviously don't have the gun,
Right.
but the perspective looks a lot like Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, they did do it over the shoulder now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of the limitations of back then, I think.
Right.
Well, later you're gonna get a pipe that apparently makes things a lot easier. So.
Yes, what every zombie is afraid of, the pipe.
Yeah. I like hearing the crunching sound that it makes when you kill things. That
right.
So anything else?
No, like I said, play Dead Space. Played that for like 2 hours. It's good. Or it seems fine or fun. I played Metal Gear Solid 1.
How is that?
That game, parts of that game have not aged particularly well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make fun of the graphics all you want. I mean, they were kind of. It was impressive back then, but like Cloud had more facial definition than fucking Solid Snake did back then.
Yeah.
The problem with that game, really, to me, is like it is real hard to get a bead on when you're going to choke a guy out. Mm-hmm. So, I'm like a foot away, and I do the action, it doesn't work. I have to get like one step further or closer to him.
Right.
It's like if I get 2 steps, I'll just bump into him, and then I'll get alerted and shoot at me. So it's a real delicate process.
Yeah.
And I got Metaphor on the way, but it's like a week out now because my order got delayed. So that's unfortunate. But
that sucks. I'm sorry.
No biggie. I got other stuff to play. So
yeah, because you got the big collectors thing, right?
Yep.
All right. I got the regular edition, so I'll wait for it.
Well, given the reviews, I guess it seems worth it now. So
yeah, for sure. Glowing reviews for this game. Pretty much. I mean, not that we didn't expect some of that. It is, from the same folks that made the Persona games and Shin Megami Tensei games, and even Vengeance has been well received this year. Persona 3 Reload was well received this year as well. Obviously, both of those are older games.
Right.
But I mean, this is like they called it their third pillar, and it seems like it is going to be that. And we talked about the demo, last week. So
yeah,
if you want our thoughts on, what we played from there, you can tune into that or find the clip on YouTube as well. So
yep.
I'm ready for that on Friday, just to delve deep, go from where we were, and let's see how this goes from there.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so I guess I haven't really. I played. I saw that they finally posted your Astro Bot review. I'm almost done with mine. I'm like at the last, I think right before the conclusion, just talking about the extra stuff. So I'm probably gonna have it done today. But I replayed Astro Bot because the PS app does that thing where it removes your pictures if it's been after 2 weeks. So it had removed all of my pictures. So I had to play out some levels and stuff in Astro Bot again to get more pictures to put in the review. And just kind of like refamiliarizing myself with some stuff that I'd already talked about in there. And I was like, okay, just still fun, still awesome.
Yep.
So, but that's it for me. I guess let's go ahead and talk about the big news of it wasn't, look, I had a different headline to start this podcast when I was like going through it on Sunday, like afternoon, like putting up the stuff. I did not think that we were going to be talking about Halo.
Right.
So it's just funny that they have the Halo World Championships, and then it's not just the Halo World Championships. They have this new whole trailer that they show that's a project that they began to kind of show whatever the new generation of Halo would look like in Unreal 5. You know, they'd already had reports before that they were going to move Halo to Unreal 5, possibly try to start that with Halo Infinite, or at least with the multiplayer part. They did announce like previously that they'd added third-person mode to the multiplayer, right? So kind of led to more rumors about does that mean the Battle Royale's coming pretty soon or something? And then we get this, which is just 343 essentially saying, okay, we're moving Halo to Unreal 5. And this is what it looks like. And then they also revealed at the end that they are no longer called 343 Industries. They are now officially Halo Studio, which, I heard some mixed reception. I talked to, our sort of third co-host, Randy, and he was like, oh, this is stupid. They're naming it after the game that they technically didn't start. It's like your stepdad coming and taking over something that you made.
Yeah.
And I laughed and I was like, but at least this isn't like he kind of gave the example of what if Konami just decided to make a Metal Gear studio and saying, okay, now you're in charge of all the Metal Gear games. I was like, well, that's not necessarily true, because it's like they took over from Halo 4 and have made Halo games before. It's not like this is the first one, right? But they do mention in there that they had a recipe before, which was taking a lot of stuff from the previous games that Bungie obviously became famous with, and then adapting that to the current, and to kind of varying success, right? Especially 5 wasn't well received at all. Halo Infinite was well received for some of it, and Halo 4 was mixed as well. And then you have that, right? So what do you? I know you didn't watch the trailer thing that they showed, but
no, I did.
You're reading. Oh, you did? Okay, no, you did.
Yeah,
Right.
it's 7 minutes long, so who cares?
Right.
I agree with Randy, kind of. Changing the name doesn't mean a whole lot, because the same people are so responsible or in charge, and they can't make a good Halo game.
I would disagree in the
okay. They can't make a profitable and popular Halo game.
Yeah.
Because I think Halo 4 is okay, I guess, but no one cared about 5, and Halo Infinite seems like a dumpster fire.
Right. I think the thing with Halo is that 4, they had to kind of, they're now forced to, okay, Bungie ended the cycle, we have to start our own, and they're having to kind of deal with that and change it. And then 5, they went into a completely other direction nobody wanted, and they suffered for that. 6, they kind of backtracked and went back to that. The multiplayer was really well received. The story mode was actually liked a lot for Halo Infinite. It was just the way that they rolled out the stuff afterwards that gave it the bad press, right? We're not going to have the co-op. We're not going to have Forge for a long time. Oh, then we're just canceling the split screen, period.
And it was like 80% finished already, or
yeah. The battle passes, even though they didn't do it like Fortnite where you have to buy them and they run out or whatever. Oh no, still we don't like this. This is not what we wanted for the multiplayer. And to be fair, Pierre Hintz is the one that kind of saved the Master Chief Collection, and he's the one that's kind of head of this right now. So I guess what their whole initiative was to say that we now, like, the chains have been taken off. not only are we moving over to Unreal and we don't have to worry about dealing with an engine that we only made for this thing, because remember, originally this was supposed to be like an open world game. It wasn't even supposed to be this, right? That it wound up being Halo Infinite. Then now they have the ability to kind of like, chart their own course, decide what they want to do with Halo from this point forward, chase their own stories, whatever it is, all the technical jargon. Yeah.
I would say though, like, that's bad, because part of the big issue with Halo the past 3 games is people don't like those stories or what they're doing with the characters and stuff like that. So
right.
then you go on like, oh, they got free reign to do Halo the way they want, and it's like, well, no. People don't want what they want, or what they're offering. And I did watch it. Like I said, I watched that trailer. I hated when that art director guy said like, oh, we got this Project Forge going, so we ideated on 3 levels. And I was like, couldn't you just say fucking brainstorm? Or we created like levels. Like, he said it in like the most like pompous way too. I'm like, oh my god, like,
right.
No wonder Halo's going down the drain.
Yeah, they made one that kind of looked like the Flood, right, which hasn't been used since Halo 3,
right?
Which is something that people did want, right?
Right. Yeah, they made snow level and then like waterfall level,
right.
But I don't know. I think they should have really got. I mean, the problem with 343, from what a lot of people have said, is like they don't like what Bungie did. And there have been some reports, like old Bungie people who worked on like the first Halo games, who like left Bungie and went to try to go work at 343, and 343 was like, no, because like you worked at Bungie.
Well, remember they even brought in Joseph Staten to kind of like save it at the last minute. Halo Infinite.
Right.
So,
but
talk about big time Bungie person.
Yeah, but he's gone now,
right?
And you have to wonder how much of his input they actually used.
Or, yeah, that was just for the story. I think it wasn't necessarily for the, the gameplay aspect of it.
So, I don't know. I mean, they can rebrand as much as they want, but if the same people are in charge, it's just completely hollow. It's just like,
well, I think the thing is that they learn from that mistake, right? They learn from the mistake of, we're not going to do this again. There was a lot of pressure of after the delay and after the mess up of showing Craig and that whole trailer and whatever, of we have to get this right. But then also it's like, oh, we can't delay it again. We have to release it now. We have to have this thing. We have to have this big game out in this time frame or whatever, or it's going to be a big loss. And, even though they have Game Pass to back them up, they don't necessarily, it's not like we're trying to get people to go necessarily spend everything and buy the game like you would have in the past. But I think they learned about, like, you got to release a feature complete, no battle passes. If you're gonna do it right, I mean, obviously the way that they release this multiplayer, you have to monetize it. You have to include that stuff. It's free multiplayer, right? You're not paying for that, so it's a different thing. Yeah.
Well, there's 2 things. First is, it reminds me. I mean, you've seen The Wire, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of like the conversation that Stringer Bell had with his college professor in like season 2, I think. Like, Stringer's like asking him like, well, I have a bad product, or like, what do you do when you have a bad product, but and you're losing market share? And the professor's like, oh, well, you do a name change. But then he was like, as the reputation of your brand as the new name goes down, you're going to lose even more market share, and like, and like trust in the product. And I'm like, yep, this is what they're doing. But here's the other thing is, what would you rather have? Like, personally, would you rather have a free multiplayer game where they monetize everything, or would you rather have a $60 or $70 multiplayer product where they don't monetize shit?
Well, I mean, personally, I'd rather have what we used to have, right? Which is same thing with Call of Duty, where you pay your money.
That's the second one, where
$60
or $70 product where you don't monetize anything. And I think that's what most people want.
Right.
And,
well, there's still a lot of people. Remember, it's not like free to play stuff is not the huge thing right now. I mean, like I get why they did it,
but okay, but
but
even I mean, I could pull up Steam charts or whatever just for like Halo, and I doubt. I'm sure
no,
Halo Infinite has been
they're not
popular,
great. They're
right?
not.
But compare that to Halo 3 or Halo, ODST or Reach. Like, come on,
Right.
like,
But I think like it's the whole point of they understand now what they can't do, what they can do, what they need to make sure is in the next Halo. They did announce that there's multiple projects in the works, so it's leading many to believe that one of them is going to be once again Halo 1 redone again, and then they will move on to whatever it is that they want to call Halo moving forward.
I would say what you're saying kind of makes sense, but this is also their fourth attempt at a Halo game, or
Right.
their fourth attempt, and it's like if you can't get it right in 3 attempts, you shouldn't be able to get a fourth. Like Microsoft should have really looked at that studio fired most of those people.
But there's large chunks of Infinite that was actually good. Like it's just they didn't get it cohesively together, and I think that's part of the thing is when they do bring up a good point about when we are having to worry about being engineers and technicians and worrying about making sure that the engine works and not getting to focus so much on the game. I think that does take away from what you wanted to do. Not only that, but also the game was supposed to be something else originally. And you can see the parts of that feel like, oh, there's quests and stuff. It's like you didn't have quests in Halo. It's just one campaign, right?
Well, that's like what they tried to do with Gears 5.
Yeah.
And look how well that worked out.
It kind of does feel like it's the same thing that we're trying to hit the reset button with Gears. We're trying to hit the reset button with Halo. Can they get it to come together? They have to do it this time, I think. But they have that opportunity now, it seems like anyway, to like really go back into what they feel works and where they need it to go. And hopefully it's positive.
The really funny thing and the really, I wouldn't say crass, but the really depressing thing is they could just do what Konami did with Silent Hill 2 and just go like, we're gonna remake Halo 3 because that's one people liked. Instead of doing the thing they should do is like remake Halo 1. Like the Silent Hill thing is kind of weird because it's like, yo, Silent Hill 1 is a little older than this. Like you should be remaking that game first. And then
the reason why they chose 2 because it's not connected to the other ones, right? Like Silent Hill 1 kind of connects to 3 and 4, whereas 2 is by itself. So that's kind of why. Yeah.
Because if they remake Silent Hill 1 and it's popular, guess what? They can move on to the next one. When that's popular, they can move on to 3.
Does Bloober want to just do that though? That's the thing.
Yes.
Does Bloober want to just keep making Silent Hills? And I think this is like well, we don't know if this is going to be amazing or not. So let's just do Silent Hill 2. Let's get the press from that. And then it wound up being awesome. Will Bloober want to go back and make Silent Hill 1? Will they do this? I don't know. It's just I hate the whole like, oh, let's start a series of remakes and then just like the Halo one, right? The idea was for Halo they were gonna do 1 and 2 at least, and then possibly even 3.
Yeah,
they did 1, and then by the time we got to like where 2 was gonna happen, it was like,
yeah, too little, too late.
Don't know, it's too late now. Like, and then we had to like patch it into the collection, or whatever. And I worry about like that's what winds up happening with that is they go, well, there's already a collection of Silent Hill, so
yeah. But then look at what Capcom has done, and you can make the case that like there was a remake of Resident Evil 1 way back in the day. So,
right.
You can. Some people would say, like, "Oh, they remade Resident Evil 2 first," or Resident Evil 1 is like a generation before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they still did it. Like, Who cares?
And it's still like the definitive way to play that game. Like you don't want to go back and play the PlayStation 1 version of that, right?
So that's the blueprint Konami should have been looking at. Not, we can remake Silent Hill 2, and then what? You're gonna remake Silent Hill 1 now? Like,
well, that's the thing. I think this left in the door open to, okay, if there's a good reception to this, we could go back and start the series of doing Silent Hill 1 and beyond. Whereas if they decide that this is it, this is the only remake that's going to happen, then okay, it's the standalone game, so it doesn't hurt anything if you don't get the other ones. And they technically do have a collection on modern platforms you can go buy if you want, right? So
this is completely unrelated.
Yeah,
but I saw this pop up on, I think, GameStop or some wiki or something. They are re-releasing Darksiders 2 on PS5 and Xbox Series X. I'm like,
the
that game is
definitive edition.
Yeah, and I'm like, that game is a decade fucking old. Like, how many platforms does it need to be released on?
Well, I think aren't they making a fourth one? Isn't that the whole point? Like I think they want them all to
claim
be out
they are,
there.
but who knows if they're gonna have the money to make it, So
right. So for me, as a huge Halo fan, I'm happy to hear that they're going back to the drawing board and stuff like that. I think it's just one of these where.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What do you want the next game to be? Would you rather it be Halo 1 really remastered,
Right.
or Halo 7 where they kill off Aerith? And I will always make that joke when you get to a franchise that has 7 games.
I'm fine with if you want to do a Halo 1 Combat Evolved double anniversary, because in 2025, in November 2025, it will be the 25th anniversary of Halo at that point. So or 2026, I'm sorry. The whole point is for it to come out with the new console, which is rumored to come out in 2026. So like that's the thing, is for me, I'm fine with it. If that's going to be one of your launch games for the new console, and you want to show all your new stuff with the game that everybody knows and loves, and say, okay, from here on, this is what we really want from Halo. And then you start teasing what the new Halo is going to be, whatever you decide for it to be, Halo 7 and beyond. I'm good with that. I also wonder if the move to Unreal Engine 5 does that mean now it's for sure coming to PlayStation 5 or PlayStation whatever 6 we're at that point? You think we finally get to see Halo on the competitor console, or this is the one they're going to hold back?
I still am at, if they were smart, this should be the one they hold back, but I think they're getting increasingly more and more desperate. So I think it will just come to it, and it'll be on every PC marketplace ever.
I definitely think that if you're going to use Halo 1 as the reset, and you're going to say that this is going to be the system seller or the one that attracts people over to maybe getting an Xbox for the next gen, I don't think you put Halo on PS5 at all.
Yeah.
Now, if maybe that's not your idea, right? We still don't know what their next gen thing is. Is their next gen thing a portable system, and that's all it is? They then is it their version of the Switch that docks to the TV, or is it going to be a two-pronged where you have the docking thing that's you can buy by yourself? It's not like the Portal, and then have the big console that goes to your TV. Whatever it is they decide, or is the portable thing just a rumor and it's not happening at all? We'll see. But I just feel like this is your one game, one series that it still could be your flagship if you do this right. It hasn't been your flagship for a long time, right? That's really been like Forza Horizon to be honest.
Excuse me. I think you're forgetting a little game called Brute Force.
Yeah, of course, Fruit Force.
And Conquer.
Don't tell Robert Taylor that. So that being said, I think yes, they have the ability to bring this back. I just think if you put it on PlayStation, at that point, what's the point of even having exclusives? You might as well just release everything day and date, and that's it. And then if you want to keep making the box, make the box.
Yeah. I wish I could be more optimistic about this, but it's just too many people. Like, if they brought back, like, I know they can't bring back like a Halo creator because he's at Bungie, I think, still. But like, if they brought someone back who was like big back then and said like, "Hey, we hired this guy back to guide us for this next Halo game," that would be a lot better. But they didn't.
Right, I understand. So that kind of leads me into the next story here. It kind of leads to what I was talking about with Halo and going to PS5 or whatever. Rod Fergusson was asked, or he wasn't asked. He just gave it up. He gave up the information that I've been asked this a bunch of times. As soon as the PS5 Pro launches, Diablo IV Vessel of Hatred will be there at launch with it. It will be PS5 Pro enhanced. And then also there is a news report that came out that there is a verifiable link, obviously, that you can go look at, that Microsoft's issued a kind of like a poll or here's a bunch of questions that we have for you if you've chosen PlayStation over Xbox, right? And why you don't have a game on Xbox, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting that is the approach we're taking now. Not only are we making sure that, even though, yes, Activision is supposed to be by itself, right? You're having a game be PS5 Pro enhanced at the launch of the PS5 Pro, your competitor console, which would ultimately make it better than the console you currently have. And then you're now releasing a thing that's telling devs, we want to know why you've not chosen Xbox. So if you look at that from a I don't own an Xbox perspective, Mark, what does that say to you?
That they don't understand why people want one console over the other, or they don't understand like that people go with what the first adopters go with.
Right. And I think part of it's just something that Phil Spencer even said himself. Like, part of that you're not going to give back because they chose PlayStation 4. Yeah.
See, it's the thing though. I don't think it's necessarily a first adoption thing.
Yeah.
Like, they can look at the success of the Xbox 360 versus PS3 and go, we came out a year earlier, so we had a year ahead. But it's like, well, yeah, you did, but you also had a better online infrastructure, cleaner interface, not gimmicky shit, at least back then. A better, like, just better online things like that. And so when they have to go toe to toe, like the recent console or the one before that, where they had a lot more gimmicky shit with it, that didn't go well in their favor.
Well, and also they had exclusives, right?
Right.
It also fundamentally was a better console for the devs to make for, because how many games came out on PS3 and they were buggy as crap?
Right.
Right. So yeah. And then Xbox 360 had the Red Ring of Death that didn't help it either, but they were able to fix that eventually.
Right. I had a talk with Jens recently. What would you say? I mean, it was the anniversary, just, talking about it. What would you say is the best PlayStation generation? Or your favorite, let's say that.
My favorite is still probably the PS1.
Actually, so is mine. I would say PS1. I would actually say it's a tie. Then, like, the next one is PS2 and PS4. I might say PS4 personally, but PS2 had a lot of great games for it. Next one it would be like PS5, and the last one would be PS3.
I definitely agree.
And
I think there's a lot of people that would say PS4 is right there. If you didn't play in the PS1, to them the PS4 is probably the best generation.
Right. But
yeah,
I bring that up because in Jens's view, the PS3 is the best system. And I'm like, you're the only one who thinks this.
As a system, if you include all the things that it can do, if you get the big fat one,
right,
it's a great system. As far as like the games on it, that's a whole different deal. But as far as what the system can do, yeah,
that's the thing. Is like, I think PS3 had a lot of great games for it, but they didn't iterate well, and they also killed off a lot of their like PS2 and PS1 franchises along the way.
Yeah,
and that's not great. But yeah, I think like it's not. I think like maybe Microsoft is still in like the mentality of the tribe, or just not understanding what people want. Like, does it really take like a market focus group, or like a survey from Phil going like, why do people want the PlayStation over to the Xbox? And it's like, well, PlayStation has 70% of the market. That's of the two consoles at least. That's what most people play games on. That we can see direct sales. Do we need to go further?
I think part of it is it's also the thing that goes against their current policy. It's they have exclusives, right?
Right.
To be fair, a lot of it is I already own a PS4, so I'm gonna buy the next thing that goes in the number of what I already own because it plays the games that I already own. So, there's so many people that have not moved over from the PS4 yet.
Right.
Because they can play all the games that they want to play on the PS4 still. And there's still games coming out. Metaphor is coming out on the PS4.
Yeah, that Jedi Survivor game kind of PS4 recently.
Yeah, like they even went back, like you said, made Jedi Survivor on the PS4. So like there's still no big reason for somebody to move over. And if you have an Xbox One, even less, because you have Game Pass. And unless you really want to play almost all the big games, except for like Starfield, they're gonna be on PS5.
Believe me, the DLC for Starfield isn't looking too hot. So.
No, yeah, it's not doing great. Even though it's funny because it's like it seems like a very high contrast between like what the critics say on that one to what people that are actually like enjoy Starfield say. That it's not as short as people say it is. It's just that people are running through it because that's mainly what you do when you review a game is you're getting through the main campaign and then you do some of the side stuff and that's it. So it's just a difference of opinion, but it's interesting, but I don't know if they're really going to find out anything that they don't already know.
Right.
I think they know the reasons. They just don't want to go back to that model because they can't compete with Sony at that model of beating them for exclusives and things like that.
They could at one point, but not anymore because they're such a services company.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, and to be fair to them, they are making strides like we talked about last week with all the Japanese stuff that is coming over to them. Yes, there are still companies that will probably never work with them because they just don't see the point. Like NIS America being one of them, like just they don't see the point of really. They're already a niche in themselves. That entire company and all the games they make, putting it on Xbox is like, wow, just going to the niche of the niche of the niche. So like they're feeling like they're not going to get anything out of that. So, there's just certain companies that's like it doesn't behoove them at all unless Microsoft's coming in with the money and saying, okay, put your game over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of these things where I do think that having the head start, whether it's 1 year or 2 years or even 6 months could help them if they have the rest of the stuff going by then, have a really good Halo, have things that can bring people in.
That's the other problem, though, is like they don't like for the past 4 years or maybe even longer, they've been really spinning their wheels as far as like, you say what you want about Sony's output, like you can not like Spider-Man or God of War Ragnarok, but other people do, and those games sell incredibly well. And
well, but look at the lineup. Look at the lineup of all those games that have come out this year that are PlayStation exclusives, and almost all of them are pretty great.
Yeah.
And then, okay, Hellblade 2, whether you like it or not, that's not the point. The point is that that's all it's been. And
right.
Indiana Jones, okay, that's going to come out so late that at least for this year won't matter for most of the awards. And you destroyed the studio that you let somebody else go buy the studio that made your one critical game that you had. That wasn't Hellblade. So you've kind of dug yourself in this hole.
Yep.
And like you said, not only spinning wheels, but constant delays. Avowed was supposed to come out this year. What happened? Got delayed. Right.
Well, even like the studios they bought, over the past decade or whatever, it's like, what is, I still bring it up, but what is Double Fine up to? No, Psychonauts 2 came out
2,
3 years ago at this point, I think, or at least 2. And they haven't announced shit. And it's like, what? I like Double Fine, don't get me wrong. But
right. I think they're taking the Sony model now as well of we're not going to announce something unless we know it's coming out soon. Because
which is good. Because like, look at what happened with some of their
look at Starfield. Games. They had to delay that whole thing a whole entire year.
Yeah.
So,
but you should at least try to, maybe not announce something, but say, hey, we got something in the works.
Right, like they did with that Clockwork Revolution game, the new NXL game or whatever. Like they did a good job with that. That got people excited. It's just they have to not only reveal things from those studios, but they have to stick to those dates and actually have them come out and not be announcing delays. And then as you go throughout the year, the thing that people are paying Game Pass for, these first party games, they're getting less and less and less. And yes, now you have Activision Blizzard King to roll back on, which you have Vessel of Hatred coming out in a matter of hours for people.
Two at this point.
Yeah, so that's great. I mean, that's gonna be, you have Call of Duty coming out at the end of the month. That's great for you as well. And you announce some cool Blizzard stuff coming, old stuff, and maybe there's new stuff coming with that too. But it's like your other things have to kind of fall in a line and a pattern and really be able to get to that thing that it feels like Phil Spencer promised many, many moons ago about a first party game each quarter. And it's like, look, Flight Sim is cool, but most people, even with Game Pass, are not even going to bother with Flight Sim.
See,
right?
That's like one of the few games I'd actually be interested in personally.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, that's even more of a niche than the Forza games are.
Right.
So it's like, it's cool that they placate to that, right? I think it's cool that Our History Untold exists, right? I think that's cool that game exists. But again, it's like that is serving one master, which is mainly PC. And then two, it's like it's a genre that is loved by that crowd, but not so much the console crowd. Same thing with the Age of Mythology stuff or whatever. It's cool that those games exist and they continue to have games, but they're not the mass market ones that are going to sell people on, oh, I need to go buy a Game Pass for this, So maybe they'll figure it out with this research thing. But until then, we are going to be moving on to talk about something else. Follow up from what we talked about last week, which was the whole Assassin's Creed Ubisoft stuff. Now we have news that Tencent and the Guillemot family may consider just buying out Ubisoft and making it public or private. I'm sorry, making it private, so where they wouldn't have to answer to shareholders, and they could, I guess, make probably a bunch of the same stuff they're already making because Tencent is the biggest publisher there is, and they're not going to sit there and want to lose money constantly. You think the shareholders want to lose money? Tencent doesn't want to lose money. So if this actually happened, now this is Ubisoft has gone on record saying that we look at all possibilities, so they didn't deny it, right? But they also kind of said, "Oh, we acknowledge that this is being talked about." What did you think when you saw this news? Just more of the same, or?
I think it'd be incredibly foolish on Tencent's part because the big problem with that company seems to be the Guillemot family, and to have like no accountability if it's private. It's like, well, good luck there,
I think part of it is Ubisoft or not Ubisoft, Tencent can't just outright go and buy them like that, because then you're going to get the FTC involved and the other regions involved, right?
Yeah.
Because you're making the biggest publisher even bigger, and that's not going to play well. Probably
it should, once Shadows comes out and likely bombs, I imagine Tencent might be getting out of the Ubisoft market, and then they are really screwed.
But let's say this does happen. They also own the rights, the cloud rights to the Activision stuff. So I wonder if that opens up a whole other can of worms as well with the regulators, because the whole reason why they sold it to Ubisoft was because they wanted to avoid Activision Blizzard taking over in that sector. So you give it to Tencent. What does that say?
They would just keep going, or or they could just assign the rights to someone else if something does go bad. I'm sure there's like a clause, if company.
Yeah, does it go back to Activision at that point if somebody else technically owns Ubisoft? Right?
Yeah.
I think what worries me is that if you're really concerned about what happens to Ubisoft now, right? Like you're saying we're all going, we don't like Ubisoft's direction. They constantly keep floundering on these big decisions that they make. What do you think Tencent's going to come and do? They're going to probably make them focus on a bunch of mobile stuff.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to make them focus on only the big franchises. You're not going to have them try to bring in something new. Maybe that means Splinter Cell actually happens. But I don't know. I worry about that means they double down even more on Assassin's Creed and not less.
I imagine Splinter Cell happens, but Sam Fisher will be going up against Japanese terrorists.
Right. Yeah, people that were upset about the whole Activision Blizzard thing and like consolidation more in the gaming space. I don't want to see Ubisoft go away. Even though those games are not my
I don't want Ubisoft to go away either, but I want Ubisoft to get better, and they're getting worse,
I just don't know if that would make them. They do need to get away from having to worry about shareholders. But man, I wish it was somebody else that wasn't Tencent that could buy them. And like, I wonder if like Bungie hadn't gone in this direction for Sony, like if they would consider it.
They probably wouldn't have enough money. I think Ubisoft is still like number 4, number 3, as far as third party. Because it would have gone like the traditional would have gone Activision, EA, Ubisoft.
Right.
Now it's probably Capcom, and also Activision isn't third party anymore. So,
I mean, they're still technically, their own thing just inside of Xbox, but they're third party because they go to the other consoles, right?
Right.
But it's like, Tencent owns so much little percentages of all these companies. They own 22% of Bloober Team.
Yeah.
Like, they own 35% of Shift Up. The people that made Stellar Blade. Like, it's like they own 16% of From Software. They own 14% of Remedy. Like, it's they own that. What is it? You go ahead, sorry.
I said it's a good way to get money, or keep the.
Yeah. I don't know.
Would you want to invest 100% or like 90% in one company, or would you rather spread it out?
No.
5 or 6. Yeah.
Their thing is smart. What they did was smart.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I
they
also
own all these other ones. Yeah.
Like given the option, they'd probably rather own something like Remedy or From Software, obviously, than Ubisoft because they're much more of a prestige company.
I'm sure right now, especially the way From Software has gone, they wish they could have more of that share than Sony does.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, that's the thing is right now, this is all talk. We don't know. It could change from week to week. But thing is, right now, it's not good. It hasn't been good for Ubisoft for a long time.
Right.
Ever since they started canceling a bunch of games.
And the real problem is it's all self-inflicted.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like,
let me ask you, do you believe in the adage, or do you believe in the saying of people should give, it's the giving the audience what they want?
Yeah, of course.
So do you believe that aphorism?
Yeah, if you give the people what they want, they're most likely going to give you what you want in return,
right? I kind of believe it half and half. Like sometimes you should, sometimes you should do something on your own. But Ubisoft really wants to do it on their own. So people have been begging for over a damn decade. Hey, Splinter Cell, we will buy it, assuming it's good. But we will buy it. And what does Ubisoft do? They make X Defiant, or they make that other mobile piece of shit that died in
because Six Siege was such a huge deal for them that now they want more of that.
Right, but the other Six Siege wasn't that Alien one, and they keep chasing the live service money that continually is slipping through their fingers.
Yeah, I mean they doubled down on that. They said that that's the thing that they're going to keep going after is the big open world experiences and the
mobile crap,
mobile and the live service.
Yeah.
Right. But if you look at it, a lot of their games, a lot of their decisions have not been smart.
Yeah.
Nintendo even told them, I wouldn't make a Mario Rabbids 2 right now. I'd wait till the Switch 2. And they decided, no, we're going to do this. And then guess what happens? There's diminishing returns because that game doesn't look that much different than the other one.
That one's a bummer because that's a better game. So that's one of their few bright spots as far as improving on an existing game, and no one bought it.
It's the same thing with Avatar was actually a really good game. It's just you could just swap skins with Far Cry and it's the same kind of game. So I
gotta kill 6 Navi aliens to craft a new wallet.
Yeah. There's nothing special about it. Then it's you do have a special game like Prince of Persia Lost Crown, and it's it's in a genre that is not everybody's favorite, the Metroidvania. So it doesn't, and also I think the $50 price just was too much for a game like that. But that's neither here nor there. It already happened. But then you have stuff like Immortals Phoenix Rising that people loved a lot. Oh, we're gonna cancel the second game.
Yep.
So we can have Roller Champions and Oddballers and
the big hits.
Yeah, Skull and Bones, X Defiant. Insert like you said, some other kind of live service crap here.
Right.
And then you cancel the free to play Division thing that was actually sort of interesting.
Yeah, Heartland.
And it's like, okay, all you got going right now is Beyond Good and Evil 2, which now is the Beyond Good and Evil 2 is now officially the longest game, the game that's been in development the longest.
Yep,
since it was announced.
Took Duke's crown.
Yeah, exactly. So that game at some point is going to get canceled by somebody.
Right.
The remake of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time was so badly received, you had to basically restart it, and now it's not coming out for 2 years. And yeah, that's kind of it. And then Splinter Cell, we don't know if that's ever going to come out. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's all we're doing. And it's like, man, remember when you guys were coming out with fresh stuff?
Yeah.
And it's not happening anymore. And now you've diluted your franchises so much that it's like, we know what the Ubisoft formula is. There's nothing special about it.
They're following the Microsoft train.
Yeah. Just, it sucks, man. It sucks to see for Ubisoft. But we'll see. I'm sure that will continue to be another thing that gets talked about here. Moving on to Sony for a sec, just because they have have one that is kind of a thing last week, sort of Horizon Online is going to be the next thing from the Horizon series from Guerrilla. It's not going to be the
Horizon
actual
3.
Horizon 3 that people were hoping it would be. We've kind of heard the rumors about this before. I don't know if this is supposed to be just multiplayer or it's supposed to be the MMO. There's been conflicting reports on.
I imagine MMO, or to be you and 12 other hunters have to gather around and take out the level 14 robot dinosaur or something like that,
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you want this at all?
I'm not. I like the Horizon series as a concept. I like Aloy as a character. I like the games. They're really
just say
good.
No. It's fine.
But I just don't think that's who looks at Horizon and goes, I want to play. I guess you could have said the same for Last of Us, right? Though, but nobody thought Factions was going to be something, and then it wound up being something. So
yeah, but they also crushed out the the live service part of that, or we just want to make the next Last of Us game, or make a single player game.
I kind of get it in a way, right? Because even though we always make the joke about Horizon somehow finds a way to come out at the same time as some other amazing game and it gets overshadowed, those games still sell well.
Right.
Right. People obviously enjoy that series for whatever reasons they do.
I enjoy it just fine enough. I didn't like the last one that much, but if they make a third one, I'll probably play it. But them going hey, it's a massively multiplayer game, or it's some live service thing, and it's like, well, if you do the battle pass, you get a new bow skin. It's like, great. Let's never do this,
But at least that game sort of has something that you could say, okay, I could go in with some friends and hunt the robots, and this could make them want to keep making different ones that haven't been in the game before or something. And you can add some story into it that maybe leads into 3, or they're parallel, but they have nothing to do with the main games. It's just adding on to the lore of it.
All right.
Do you think it could work conceptually? They have a point in making it, or just this is because I don't think it's going to be dead in the water because it's such a big franchise. Right? Like I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try it out that wouldn't try out a Concord or a Fair Games or whatever other, even Marathon.
Let's look at how many people tried out that Horizon VR game.
Yeah, but I think you're making people have to buy a whole other $500 peripheral. You're not having to buy anything extra for this. You're just having to buy the game, whatever they're going to charge you for it. If they charge anything at all, I guess they can make it free. But I think being Horizon, they're going to charge. But sure,
I think it'll come out and it'll bomb spectacularly. And it may do well for like the first month or two, but then it'll be like, oh, player counts 1,000 players, and it's like, yo, that's not enough to make this thing survive at all. Like,
yeah, I
just think it's like wasted. Just like such a backwards idea, because wasn't there some survey that said like people like most players prefer a single player game?
It was like 53%.
Yeah,
it came out recently,
so,
and that's not a huge percentage from what that would be 47% multiplayer. So
yeah, but you have to how many of those 47% just pick one game and stick with it?
Definitely. That's a huge amount, right? But I think if you're going to go out on a limb and continue to make these, going off of established franchises is probably a better idea than making a new one. Where the last time you did it, it worked, right? Helldivers 2 worked, even though it's sort of mostly different than the original.
Helldivers 2 worked because the first game was already multiplayer. It wasn't some single player thing. So that's why I think, it's just a perspective change.
Yeah.
To a, better perspective. But I think trying, Ubisoft did it a few times with Assassin's Creed. Like they made like an online part of that. And after 2 or 3 goes, they're like, screw it, who cares? No one cares. Like players don't care about this at all. So
it's interesting that they're adding co-op missions into Shadows now. Because
they're gonna go back to the old it wasn't Victory. I forget what the fuck they called it. The French one.
Unity?
Yeah, the one that bombed badly. Yeah.
Yes, that one. But yeah, I mean, we really don't know exactly what's all in it. They haven't revealed much of anything other than it's going to have a new cast and
right.
Who knows if
I don't think. First of all, I don't think Aloy will be in it at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I think you kind of have to separate Aloy out. Maybe you have like Aloy be in it at the beginning to kind of introduce it, and then that's it. But
once again, it's a shame that Lance Reddick has passed away because he would likely be like the mission giver or
for this. Yeah.
I think the character's name was Silence or something, but like he'd be like the guy going like, oh, he'd be like the quartermaster or something.
At least they honored him in Astro Bot.
Yeah.
Just another thing, since we're on it was an important franchise to PlayStation's early years, Tekken, and because these are early PlayStation games that we're talking about, Harada was asked about, what about a Tekken collection? And he said, well, I don't know, because, that era of graphics doesn't play as well as the Marvel one. You think he's right about that? Like, you can't have a Tekken collection? It doesn't sell as well?
I think, they're already, like, decent ray trace. I don't know if it's ray tracing, but, like, emulation efforts to, like, kind of punch that stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do that if you really want to do, or just license out the tech or whatever. It still wouldn't look as good as like Tekken 8, obviously, but it would help. But who cares? People still like Tekken 3 because you just kick match the kick button with Eddie Gordo constantly, like, or like Tekken Bowl and shit like that. So why not?
I agree.
I hate to say, I don't like Tekken at all. That's the thing, but like, it's probably the third longest lasting fighting franchise there is behind like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. And those games have had collections before, so yeah, go for it.
And it also has crazy story. It also has its own crazy story too.
Yeah,
you know, like
the Tekken story is way crazier than anything Marvel or Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter's gotten into. So,
and thank you, Blood Guilty Gaming. Appreciate that. For liking and sharing. It's one of these things where it's like, it sucks because obviously it's a money thing, right? It's the same thing where like they've been asked, Bandai Namco's been asked about Xenosaga, right? Well, Xenoblade's doing awesome. I bet there'd be a lot of people that would buy the Xenosaga games now. It's like, well, when we do focus groups, that doesn't play well, right? And it's like, it's kind of the same thing here of just, we got to know that there's support behind it before we can start making these, because it's not, we can't just put out something and then nobody buys it. And
I don't think they would have to actually do like Tekken 1 through 7. Like that would probably be a big haul. But I like Tekken 1 through 5.
Well, yeah, the ones that are not on modern consoles, right? Like,
yeah. Like I don't think the PS3 one. That'd probably be Tekken 6, maybe. But
yeah,
Tekken's 1 through 5. PS1, PS2 era Tekken. Sure.
Yeah.
Go for
it. You could release it for what, $50, and
yeah, borrow the emulation that Capcom's doing for their Capcom thing.
Yeah,
do that. Just plug in the ROM or plug in the ISO and be like, here you go.
All right, moving on to Nintendo, who are once again being talked about not because of their games, not that Echoes of Wisdom is awesome. But I personally am just going to wait till that's going to be my, like, if Switch 2, that's going to be like an extra launch game for me for Switch 2 at this point. Or maybe something I pick up early next year if there's like not a lot going on in January. I just don't really have any motivation to like do anything on my Switch.
Yeah, once that card I got kind of died, I was like, I'm done at this for a while, I guess now.
Yeah. So that it's being talked about because the other big emulator, not the Yuzu, the one that Nintendo shut down themselves. This time, they are sort of involved with the Ryujinx emulator being shut down.
Right.
This is
if I sort of, you mean completely?
Yeah, like they kind of, the post that was made on Discord basically alludes to like one of the developers got hit up by Nintendo to basically like, hey, what if we offer you this and this if you just shut the thing down?
What if we offer we won't sue you into the end of the crater? That
we technically can't sue you because this is like open source or whatever the heck was the reasoning. But what if we do this and this? And then he goes, next thing you know, he disappears, doesn't answer people's, texts and phone calls and stuff. And the other person that's like majorly involved with this has to announce that pretty much Ryujinx is gone.
The first guy's on the run. He's still gonna be programming the emulator in secret and uploading it from cyber cafes and shit like that.
And also, not only to that, but Nintendo, sued that mod chip seller,
right?
As well.
That'll go well for him.
And he agreed to like stop selling it, but he apparently is not going to seek legal counsel. He feels like he's going to just go at it alone at this point against them. He feels like he disputes the claims that Nintendo's making.
To quote Dodgeball, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how well it works out for him.
What do you think about either one of these? Obviously, for the people that love emulation, this isn't great.
I mean, I think current system emulation is kind of legally dubious. Let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be valid if the system's not being sold anymore. That's fine because you can't get it in a fucking. They're not losing money anymore, but. If you can still buy a Switch at a Best Buy or whatever, okay, this is it's a piracy thing, but then people who are going like, oh, I'm doing it because I do have a Switch, but Zelda doesn't run great on it. It's like, well, you don't have to play Zelda. Like, if you don't like how it runs on a Switch, okay, move on.
Exactly. That's the thing is, oh, well, I want to test out the game before I spend the money on it because Nintendo's games never go on sale. Well,
yeah, I want to test out the game for 30 hours and then maybe see the credits and then.
it's like, well, you know how Nintendo's practices are. It doesn't mean that you have to play the game also, right? It's like,
Right.
I understand for the people that you don't have legit access to it, or
but that's still such like a minor.
Yeah, or like the ones that, if we're gonna say down the line, when the console is no longer being made, and that game particularly is not being made, and you want to have a copy of it because that's the only way, sure,
Right.
whatever. But not when you're playing Legends of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom 2 weeks before the game came out. And I'm not talking about even the ones that got it early because of breaking street data over. I'm talking about the people that are just downloading it off a PC or off of a website or a link or whatever, and you're playing it. And it's like, what do you expect Nintendo to do? You think that, I mean, yes, this is a small amount of buys that are not happening, but if I'm Nintendo, what do you expect them to do? Just be like, oh yeah, it's cool that you played our game without buying it,
right?
Like, it's like, I'm not trying to defend Nintendo as in they have some really bad anti-consumer practices. Okay, let's be fair about that. I'm not sitting here trying to say everything Nintendo does is great. It's not. But that is the way Nintendo has established themselves for eons.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people keep buying the remake or the collection that sucks. They didn't really updo those ports of Mario, but they bought them anyway. You know, the other remakes that they do, if they're not great, people still buy them anyway. So you're not teaching the company anything with your wallet. So then you're going to go, oh, we're going to go the piracy route. Well, what do you think the company's going to do?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a weird take on like why you do it. I get the video game preservation part of it, but you can preserve it and just not use the current release route. You can wait until that system no longer is in service, and then you want to do that like we've always done with emulators, and you're going to go under the radar a lot more. But now you're getting to the point where Nintendo's also attacking people that are like showing YouTube videos of people like having emulated there on their console, and it's like, well, I don't know. They've always just been that terrible about that stuff. So
yeah,
sucks for the people, but again, it's about and how you use it, right? All right, any final things here? I gotta end it before we So really quick here, before what's coming out, pretty much tomorrow, Silent Hill 2 remake for the people that didn't get it early. You can go get that, go play it. We already did. Marc's already played it. I'll have thoughts next week. Marc will have more thoughts. Marc will have thoughts on Diablo IV Vessel of Hatred. That comes out in a few hours. There's obviously Metaphor ReFantazio. We'll also have thoughts on that too. That comes out. Sky Ocean Wings for Hire, the like kind of Scars of Arcadia indie version. That comes out this week as well. Europa comes out on PC and Switch. That's like the kind of like platforming Breath of the Wild sort of cool looking game that has some really awesome sights. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero also comes out Friday.
I can finally know who's going to win, Goku Z mid or Goku Z end.
Yeah, that's got some major like big time pre-orders. People have been waiting for that game.
Yeah.
Transformers Galactic Trials also comes out same day. Starship Troopers Extermination also comes out the same day. So got some interesting stuff coming here, all in the same a week. Backyard Baseball 97. Awesome that they're bringing that back. I think that's cool. I remember playing that back in the day. Yeah, so there's some really, really good games, kind of something for everyone coming this week. This is the most packed month, and the next week we already got another great week of stuff with Neva, the New World Arternium, even Just Dance for people, 8-Bit Adventures 2, some other things. So, yeah. All right. So, thank you, everybody who watched, listened, all that stuff, whether you watch live or you watch later or you listen later. We do appreciate you. Go write us a review on whatever podcast source you use. And everybody that's affected by the storm, be safe and evacuate if you need to. And we'll see you here next week.
Later.
Bye.